Hi everyone, I'm Valerie Goodwin. I am a student here at Eastern Michigan University studying public relations, and today I'm going to be interviewing one of our alumni, Tim. Tim, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tim Wieland. I'm currently the manager of corporate communications for Bosch in North America.
All right. So Tim, I first want to talk about your life after college. So were you able to find a job straight after graduation, or did you end up taking a different route?
Yeah, so when I graduated, it was in 2003, and we were still in the economic recovery after 9/11. So it was a very tight job market. And so I had a few, leads, but I didn't end up finding full-time employment right away after college. I ended up taking an internship, which it was a paid internship, but I was not getting benefits or anything like that immediately. So it was maybe a little bit of a hit at first from a pride standpoint, but it ended up being the right place to be. That place that I interned at, I ended up working there for 12 years. So I ended up working my way from intern to VP before I left the agency. So it was really a good place to be, and I'm glad I was willing to take that chance and invest that time. And I saw it more as an opportunity to get my foot in the door and really establish a strong basis for my career. And so then that's how I approached it.
All right. So what's the job that you currently hold, and how were you able to find this job from the one that you had for 12 years?
Yeah. So I'm at Bosch, and if you don't know of Bosch, it's probably something that touches your life every day. So there's not a car in the world that doesn't have something from Bosch on it. We're the number one auto supplier in the world. We do everything from components that go in powertrain or engines to safety systems, like if you have a lane keeping, or that might be aided by one of our cameras or our radar sensors, or that sort of thing. And we're involved in a lot in automotive. It's about 65% of Bosch's business. But we also, if you know Bosch power tools, they sell those at a lot of the leading home improvement stores. I know my dad, who's a woodworker, has tons of Bosch tools. We have a Bosch dishwasher downstairs. So if we have a home appliances group that's within our consumer goods area. But then also we have there's security systems. So Bosch has security camera or security group, and so a lot of security cameras in buildings are from Bosch. And even down to things like the sensors that are in your smartphone. There's about 50% of the phones in the world have a sensor from Bosch in them. Like when your phone rotates, when you flip it, it's likely that it's a Bosch sensor that's doing that. So it's a really interesting company that does a lot of really neat things. It's German, but it's privately held. Where the company's owned the majority of by a foundation, about 92%, I believe, owned by a foundation. And so our profits get reinvested in various causes around the world. And that's something that it's really nice to have that as kind of the backbone of and the purpose of the company. I mean, the tagline is invented for life, and we not only believe in creating great products, but also making a difference and a contribution to society. So my job within that is the media relations strategy for the US, and then also within the mobility sector, which is basically the automotive sector. I'm responsible for kind of our unified marketing within there. So I bring together a group of marketing leads from across all the divisions in automotive, and we look to market and go to the whether it's our customers or partners or the industry at large with kind of a one Bosch message. So I do a lot of media relations, but also I have a team that we look at events and internal communications and employee advocacy, that sort of thing. And then I'm part of a larger team that my manager oversees corporate communications and government affairs for not only North America, but also South America and Australia. And so I have a lot of great colleagues that I get to work with on our team, really smart people here in the United States, also in other areas of the world that I have great relationships with and get to work with.
All right. So before we get more into the job that you do today, graduation was obviously back in April. And I know that sometimes it can be difficult for students to find jobs after graduation, especially now with the pandemic. Is there any advice you have for recently graduated students that to help them stand out when they're applying for jobs, or just things that you wish that you had known when you were graduating, going out to the real world?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first is based off my experiences is be willing to, just find a place for your foot in the door, right? If you know you want to work in, PR, find a job where you can get your foot in the door, even if it's an internship, even if, maybe you have to volunteer and you have to work on the side, find a way to make sure you're getting experience and you're continuing to show that you're interested in having this as a career. Because yeah, there are going to be opportunities to take jobs that might not be related to this. You might be able to get into, sales or something else. And I'm not criticizing that. If that's a path you want to take, that's totally fine. But if you think you want to do this as a career, make sure you're continuing to flex that muscle and show that you're interested in pursuing that, even if that's on the side for the time being, or even if that's going after an internship that's not full time. I think the other thing is you have to realize going into the job market that and the most blunt way I can say it is it's not about you, right? I mean, companies need to, you're there to make a difference for them. They're not there to serve you. You're there to serve them. And you have to be able to really show that you understand that and that you're going to bring value every day in the job that you have. So you make sure you understand and can articulate in an interview the value that you bring, the skills that you bring, and how you can understand that you can apply that to moving the company's goals and objectives forward. I think that's critically important. And then the last thing is don't act like every place you ever go to is the most interesting you've ever seen. I mean, I'm always highly skeptical if someone comes up and like, oh, I've read so much and I think this is the greatest place for me. And you ask a few questions and you realize that they're just saying that, right? Like when I went into Bosch for my interview, I had done my homework. It was a place I wanted to work. I had done very meticulous homework on why I wanted to work there. And it was some of the things I just told you, about the company's values and that sort of thing, and all the interesting things that it works on. But I went in very specifically, saying, this is why I want to work here. And sometimes maybe the goal is, hey, I've seen some good things about the company, but I want to, I'm trying to get my foot in the door, and I'm really looking for a place to make my mark and support a company's objectives. Again, it's not about you. So if you're saying, I want to get my foot in the door, but find a way to really support what you're doing as an organization, I think that's really important. And you got to understand there's a lot of other people looking for jobs. So, they're not out there to do a favor for anyone. You've got to find a way to stand out. And that may sound harsh, but that's the reality of what working life is moving forward. You're always going to be making sure you're providing value. That's something that you need to do at every step of your career.
All right. Well, circling back to the career that you have today at Bosch, so what does a typical work week look like for someone working in media relations? I keep hearing that a typical day is non-existent. So I'm switching to a week or even a month. What does work look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is probably the thing that's most typical is that you're consuming news. I mean, to be in the news business, you need to understand what news is. You need to read news. You need to know what's happening in the news. So whether it's my Twitter feed or whether it's, the things that I curate coming into my inbox in the morning from, there's certain newsletters that are must reads for me to know what's going on. I make sure that I'm informed, right, of what's going on. And I want to be ready in case, because you never know when you can get a phone call from someone of, hey, I have an inquiry about this. Sometimes it's that you're pushing news out. So it's, okay, we have this global announcement today. I need to make this relevant for our market and I need to push it, this way. So, yeah, I mean, in media relations, you have to be able to think on your feet and you have to be able to take in a lot of information quickly, and be able to process it quickly. You kind of got to know a lot about a lot, right? And so, maybe sometimes you're not the expert on everything, but you know enough to get the conversation started. And you have to know also when to hand it off to an expert. Like I might know enough about, driver assistance or automated driving to get a conversation started, but then I have an executive who's really good at talking about that. So, and a number of experts within that group that I could hand them off to. Same thing with like, everyone's talking about electric vehicles right now. I can talk about enough to get the conversation started, but then we have experts within our team, our powertrains group, that I would want to hand that conversation off to. So it's like, you got to also know your place of kind of when you can get it started, how you can get it moving, and then also when to kind of hook them into maybe something a little bit more in depth. And the most important thing to remember with doing media relations is you are there to help the journalist, right? Yes, you're there to help your company. I mean, your end obligation is to your company. But if you can't help the journalist out, you're not able to do your job. And part of helping a journalist out is understanding what news is. That the same way, someone's not there to give you a job just because you want a job. Journalist isn't going to write about you just because you want them to or you need them to. It needs to be something the same way. It has to provide value for their end readers. They have goals as well, and they have metrics and things like that. And a story has to be important, not just because you think it is because you work there. It has to have news value. And I know for me, like a key part of that was I worked in newspapers. I worked at the Echo when I was at Eastern. I'm a huge supporter of the Echo and a huge supporter of the role journalism plays in a society. And that's where, I'd also worked at a newspaper in high school, and I wrote for a magazine during college as well. But like knowing what is news is a really key skill to be able to bring, because, it's not like this like plea of like, cover this story because I need you to. It really you have to know what news is. And that's what the best thing a media relations person can do every day.
All right. So how did COVID impact the work that you do? What shifted for you and how did you have to adapt to it?
Yeah, so I've been working at home since, I think I started working at home actually around a week before really everything really shut down, because I was starting to sense something was going to happen. I was already working at home 1 day a week, and I was just trying to get everything set up. So, I've always been someone who enjoys being around my colleagues, so it's been challenging, but I've done a lot of video calls like this. I've learned to use, Skype video, MS Teams video, and Zoom. And, I still have contact with all of them. I've had a couple events where I had to go in person. We did something last year. We had a big announcement and a press event where I had to be in person, and we did like a virtual event. I just had a virtual press event maybe three weeks ago or so, where I was in person. So I've probably been in the office maybe 10 times over the course of the past, year and a half. But otherwise I've been at home, and it just has been an adjustment of doing my same thing I did in the office, but doing it at home. And so I don't mean to oversimplify, because it's been a drastic change, no doubt about it. But at the core of it, I still have a job to do, and I still have a value to provide to my organization to, and I needed to continue to do those things. And so like everyone, we all just had to find a way to push through.
All right. And my final question about your job currently is, what PR skills are you able to use on a daily basis working in media relations? What of those core PR skills are you still using today in your job?
Yeah, I think first off, writing is something that we've always emphasized, I think, within the PR program at Eastern, and I think that's really important. And I have to write all the time, even if it's writing an email. Being able to write in a persuasive manner, being able to organize information in a way that people can quickly understand it. That's important. So writing is a key skill. And then also I think that the methodical planning that you learn, in the courses we go through how you build a PR plan, and, building that mindset of thinking about why you take certain steps, when, thinking about research up front, thinking about evaluation and measurement at the end. Those are important skills, and those are things I built on, throughout my career. And even like when I got my accreditation, I was able to use a lot of the skills that I had learned at Eastern in the PR program, and it had that great foundation to start from. So yeah, I think writing and just planning, and again, I'll go back to the, know what news is. I think that's the best thing you can do in media relations specifically, but even in communications overall. it's still the concept of why does someone care about this, right? It sounds harsh to say, but someone's not obligated to engage with your communication just because it exists. You have to really make it something like I have a colleague who always says, "What's in it for me?" Like when we're talking about like our social media posts, and he leads that area, and he always says, "Make sure we're saying what's in it for me," and that's important to remember of what's in it for the end audience. Why do they care? Or why is it relevant to them? And so it kind of goes back to that theme of you got to make it not about you. You got to be able to empathize. That's not necessarily a skill you learn in a PR program, but that's a social skill that you really need, is to be able to empathize with other people and empathize with a larger group and say, like, why is this important to somebody else, or how can I make it relevant to them?
All right. Well, my final question for you is, are there any last words of wisdom or advice that you have for any student in the PR program or anyone in college that you wish you had known when you were a student?
Yeah, first one I will give is, if you're at Eastern, go talk to the Echo and try to get some experience writing if you don't already have it, and understand how a newsroom works. And I have from the Echo newsroom that I worked in, there's multiple people out doing a lot of really great things. We have a writer from USA Today, and he's written a couple books. I'll hawk that right now. If you haven't read Nathan Bomey's books, you should go read them. Another Echo alum, Greg Migliori, is the editor-in-chief of Autoblog. We have some people doing really great things from the Echo, and I learned a lot from those people, and they're within my network now. And I can, when I have a question about, hey, is this, we can talk about, whether something Bosch is doing might be interesting, or whether a certain topic is maybe, really relevant to them, or how they're viewing a certain topic. We can have those conversations, and it's not always just as business, conversations. These people are still my friends. And so it helps to build a network of PR people, but also helps to build a network of journalists and understand what news is. So go work at the Echo is the one thing I'll say. And then also get experience any way you can. If you're going to go do an internship for maybe over the summer, you are going to work at a camp. Say, hey, can I, even if it's above and beyond what your job is, can I do something that might be, helping you improve your image or something, or helping you build a campaign around, your social media presence, or maybe, writing a brochure or something. Like, ask for that extra experience, because every job you have, you could probably find a way to get relevant experience out of it. Maybe there's some where you're working in like retail or at a restaurant where that might not be as possible, but even then there's probably cases where you can ask, can I help out with something? And try to, again, be working that muscle of what you do in PR every single time that you're getting work experience. So don't think just because you didn't get the job as the PR intern or whatever, doesn't mean you still can't get experience from that. Likely for most of you now, when you graduate, you're going to need to have a couple of internships to really stand out. So don't be afraid to go. I remember I tried for my first internship after my sophomore year, and I didn't get it, and I was like crushed. But you know what? I was in a way better spot the next summer to like really go after something I wanted, and I had learned a lot, and I had improved my resume a lot, and I'd gotten other experience that prepared me. And so I had internships throughout my junior year and even during my senior year, and then I ended up interning, like I said, after I graduated, and that was fine. It led to a job that I loved for a long time.
All right. Well, that's some great advice. Thank you so much for being here, Tim. And thank you for an insight into your world, working in the real world and not being a student. If you guys are interested in connecting with Tim, his LinkedIn is going to be down below in the description as usual. Well, thank you so much for being here. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks.
Doing an interview like this one, DM us your email address.